afternoon, everyone. Pete Coles, Rich Sutter, back in the zone, folks. And the zone is in the zone. In the zone is actually in the zone today, folks. This is basketball, Hoop City, and we are all over it. This is just getting ridiculous. Right now, we're going to briefly just run through everything that we got because Pete informed me on the way in that we actually have the capability of picking up a couple of games today. So March Madness has begun, my friends. March Madness has begun. Let the madness begin. We're going to briefly run through the NBA with you, and then we're going to get to some of those games and see what's actually going on. And we're going to talk to you about some other stuff that's happening in the game, especially around the NIT fiasco that has occurred that we're going to talk about just a little bit later in the show. Okay, so we're going to jump right in and talk about the Phoenix Suns quickly. They picked up Isaiah Thomas. People from Boston will remember Isaiah Thomas of the old Celtics regime, and they're having a great time over there in Phoenix. They need some point guard help, and they're going to bring that in. And he hasn't played in the league in a couple of years, but there was some watching him in some of these prelim games. They brought him in some of these affiliate leagues, and he showed pretty well, shot the ball well, scored the ball well, so he might be able to come in there and help that team. They could use a little bit of help. Firing on all pistons, the Detroit Pistons have had a rough year, and it just got a little bit rougher. Their amazing rookie, Ausar Thompson's been having a pretty good year, and we're going to talk about the first round if we could ever get to it. I don't know that we do. I don't know what we're going to get to today, Pete. I really don't. I got a stack full of stuff here. We're going to try and smooth through it.
Loaded for bear.
And I doubt we're going to get through it in 1 hour. So the Phoenix Suns acquired Thomas. We're going back to firing on all pistons. Ausar Thompson, and another one of their good players, Isaiah Stewart. They're both out for the year.
Wow.
Difficult circumstance. Yeah, they both got injuries, and they're going to be out for the year. Okay, so you got about approximately 14 games remain in the NBA season. Most teams have clocked in somewhere in the 68, 67 game range, and the Celtics obviously are staying number one. They have actually, in our Power 15, we've listed 15 teams every single week that we've given you that are in our Power 15. The Celtics have maintained that top spot, I would say, almost the entire year.
Yeah.
They might have had it every time we did a 15. I'd have to go back and look, but the Celtics might have held that spot the entire year. So that's pretty amazing for the Celtics. But also, right now, as we've watched them, their lead over everybody else has grown. Their lead over everybody else has grown incrementally. They have about a 6-game lead on everybody else in the league right now. If you put that up there just for a second, Pete, you got the Boston Celtics up there, and they're firing on all pistons. Why don't you, Pete, just leave that up there, and I'll just run through that right now. I'll go through that so we can, we're going to pop that, and then we're going to go right into the tournament. We got games that have already been played. We got games that are going on. Today is the busiest day in college basketball, folks.
Yes, it is.
Grab your hat. Today and tomorrow are the busiest days in college basketball. Okay, Boston Celtics, 54-14, unbelievable. OKC Thunder, if you told me they were going to be number 2 at the beginning of the year, I would have asked for some medicine. I would have asked for some aspirin. I would have said you were crazy. Denver Nuggets have really moved up here now, slowly, steadily. Watch the Denver Nuggets, folks. They've really, really claimed that number 2 spot in the Western Conference, and there is enough time right now for them to eclipse and catch OKC and be number 1 over there. So keep an eye on that. That's something worth playing for, because we're going to talk about where exactly, when we get done with this Power 15, we're going to talk about exactly where the playoff matchups sit right now today if we had to go through it. Denver Nuggets climbing. Minnesota Timberwolves hanging tough all year. What a great record, 47-22. Really, really good, solid team. Again, they're missing Karl Anthony Towns. We're not sure about the meniscus. How soon does he get back? That's certainly going to impact playoffs, certainly going to have a look at things. Milwaukee Bucks, Doc Rivers has steadied the ship. They're playing good basketball. They've also gotten a little healthier than they were. Each and every one of these teams that we're talking about will experience, it's inescapable, you'll experience injury at some point during the season with some of your guys. Now, did you get hit with your top 3 tier level guys? And those are serious injuries. Like the Knicks got hit with a top 3 tier level. Maybe 2 of their top 3 tier got hit. And then you got that second level of player and that third level of player, and you hope you don't get too many at that top level. The Knicks are trying to sustain that right now. Cleveland Cavaliers, Another team that if you told me in the beginning of the year that they would be on top and they would be better than the Lakers, better than the Warriors, that it would be the Cavaliers, I would have said, oh my God, where are we living? What time zone are we in? Los Angeles Clippers coming in. They're really having a good year. Harden's playing good basketball with that group over there. They seem to have adjusted to each other pretty well. I think that's a tough team to see in the playoffs. I wonder about them at the center position just a little bit. New Orleans Pelicans playing great basketball. Zion Williamson is a force right now. If you're going to watch and keep an eye on some great players that are going to emerge in the playoffs, I'd keep an eye on that young man right there. He's playing really good basketball, and so are the Pelicans. New York Knicks are right there in the number 9 spot and holding by a thread. That Brunson is carrying this team. They've had some other guys step up, but I didn't think they were built for depth in the first place, and those 2 injuries really, really hurt. Okay, so Orlando Magic in the 10 spot, another surprise team to be in the 10 spot. I thought they, if you told me they could make the playoffs, I'd say sure. But to be in the 10 spot in the NBA right now, I think that's something that was unexpected, and they're doing a great job. So kudos to this whole entire organization out there in Orlando. Sacramento Kings, again, you're getting some teams here. You're seeing the NBA in a little bit of flux. You're seeing the NBA moving a little bit. You're seeing some of these teams that used to be great, not in our top 15. You're seeing some of these teams that have not been organizationally great historically. Now they're starting to improve and get so much better. All right, so Sacramento's in there tight at 11. Dallas Mavericks at 12. I think they've been in that 12, 13 spot the entire time.
Seems like it, yeah.
They really haven't moved much. They're doing good. They're playoff bound. I don't know who they'll eventually wind up with the playoffs, but we're going to look at that in a second. Okay, Phoenix, they're hanging on. Injuries out there as well. And I think when they gave away DeAndre Ayton, I think they gave away a lot. there. The 76ers and the Pacers fill us out, waiting for Joel Embiid to return, obviously. And the Indiana Pacers having a good year with Halliburton and the pickup of Pascal Siakam. Very exciting as they prepare for their playoff run. We usually do our hot and who's not. Who's hot right now? The Knicks 4 in a row, the Magic 4 in a row, the Pelicans 3, and the Celtics have won 6 in a row. The Celtics absolutely on fire all year long. 14 losses is up there in rarefied air in NBA territory. Who's not hot? The Raptors, they gave away their whole team, so it's not surprising. I wouldn't even not call them not hot. They're just, by definition, they weren't going to have it. They're 1-9 right now in the last 10. The Wizards have lost 5. Really not producing well at all. 2-8 in the last 10. They lost 5 in a row. The Nets 4 in a row. They're also half a game off the playoffs right now, so they gotta get their act together. And then there's a couple of teams here that are just not. We're tight for time today, so we're not even going to get into the depths of how terrible the season they're having. But they're not doing great. So we got a little bit of this going on. We usually cover the scoring leaders, so we haven't done it in a while. It's interesting to see Joel Embiid has stayed at the top of the scoring, although he hasn't played a game in some time now. Luka Doncic comes in number 2 at 34.1 points. You have Jokic, Giannis, and SGA. That bangs out your top 5. That's a really solid top 5. The NBA is on fire with its young talent right now. In your rebounds, you have another, as I said, young talent, Domantas Sabonis, Gobert, Rudy Gobert, Anthony Davis, Joker right there. That's why people are talking about Joker for MVP. And you got the young man Duran from the Pistons, the lone bright spot. He's a great rebounder. Blocks is Wembanyama. He's held it the entire year, and he will have the crown. As well as being Rookie of the Year, he'll also have a crown of being the blocks leader for the entire year. Doing a great job there. You got Walker Kessler. Started out at North Carolina. Not many people leave there. Went to Auburn. He's a great, good-sized big man in there, and he bangs and he likes to get after it. Lopez, Holmgren, and Davis fill out that group of blocks. On the assist side, we got our guy Tyrese Halliburton still leading. Trae Young is right there despite the injury. He's been out for a little bit. Here it goes with Doncic and Jokic right there, though. That's why people consider these guys some of the great players in the game, because they absolutely show up in these categories. And when you're considering when you're looking for an MVP, you notice one name that's really, Giannis is in the scoring, but he doesn't really do it in any other category in this top 5. And that's where you could see him get bumped out, I think. Steals is SGA, De'Aaron Fox, Matisse Thybulle, Mitchell, and Kawhi Leonard. Kawhi Leonard's still doing it. Steph Curry's still leading. with the 3-pointers as well. In the zone, MVP right now, we're ready to go with Giannis as a pick. We don't have an order to this right now as it firms up and gets closer to the end of the season, which is rapidly coming upon us. We'll certainly firm this up, but we think this is a pretty fair assessment right now. We have Giannis, we have the Joker, we have Luka, and we've thrown in SGA, who is Shai Gilgeous-Alexander on the Oklahoma City Thunder. Really, really like him. When in the zone, climbs into Rookie of the Year. Really, we think it's Wembanyama who's held up. He's averaging a double-double right now, 20 and 10, and he's leading the league in block shots. So I don't know how he doesn't become Rookie of the Year. And Holmgren and Miller both doing pretty good as well. I think they're having really good years. I think those would be your considerations. There's a couple other guys hanging around in there, too, that are having pretty good seasons and doing well. So if you look at it, if we have a couple of minutes here because we're moving pretty good, I want to just shift and keep in this NBA forum right now, and then we're going to spend the rest of the day talking about the tournament and what's going on with college basketball right now. Pete's got a little bit of the game up right there and pulling up some stuff, but we're going to just talk in this NBA stuff. Last year we went through a first round, and we did an NBA analysis and NBA draft, and we just wanted to go back, take a really, really quick look at some of that analysis. Who were the top 10 picks? And who maybe got missed, just really quickly. Victor Wembanyama, as we said, is averaging 20 and 10. What would you give that grade, Pete? His rookie season. Wembanyama. As a draft pick.
I'd like a 90.
Yep. We're going to give him grades, A, B, C, and D.
Oh, definitely an A.
That's an A. Okay, yeah. We're on it. Okay, Brandon Miller from the Charlotte Hornets. He's averaging 16, 4, and 2. He was the number 2 pick overall. I like that pick. He's having a good year. He's not having a Rookie of the Year season, but 16, 4, and 2 for a rookie, that ain't bad. What do you give him, Pete?
16, 4, and 2?
Yeah.
He's like a B.
Okay, Pete gives him a B. I gave him an A, so we'll wind up with a B+.
Okay.
Scoot Henderson, a little bit mercurial, 49 games, 12, 3, 4.7, and he's played in 49 games. All of these guys have played in the majority of their games so far. We're going to talk about games played as well because that matters. So he's got that, and he was the 3rd pick overall. I give it maybe a B-. Pete, what about you?
Yeah, I think I'm right in there with you with B-.
All right, so we'll leave him at B-. Scoot Henderson, the 3rd pick overall. Now we go to Amen and Ausar Thompson, the twins, the Thompson twins. All right, so we start with Amen, and he has 49 games played, 8.7, 5.8, and 2.2. Can't read my own writing sometimes. All right, those are his rebound and assist numbers. Scoring, rebound, and assist. What do you give him, Pete?
8.2. Like a C.
C. I'm going to give him a B-. So Pete and I are pretty close. We're going to wind up with a C+ there for Mr. Amen. Ausar Thompson, 63 games, now is out for the entire rest of the year. 8.8 points, 6.4 rebounds, 1.9 assists. I think that ain't bad numbers for a rookie, 63 games. He's going to be out for the rest of the year, so I'm going to give it a B-. What do you got, Pete?
Yeah, I'm in there with a B, B-.
All right, so we're pretty solid. All right, B, B- on Ausar Thompson. Anthony Black, the 6th pick overall by the Orlando Magic. 62 games. I don't want to prejudice this, but this is 1 of 10. This is the worst of them, I think. 17 points, 17 minutes per game. He averages 4.8 points, 2.2 assists, 1.4 assists, 2.2 rebounds, 1.4 assists. I gave it a grade F. I don't know about you, Pete. What are you thinking?
The only thing that I'm worried about is, are they limiting his minutes because they want him to bring him in slowly, or is he supposed to be an impact player?
I think anytime you take a guy 6th, he should be an impact player.
Okay.
He should be somewhere in the mix. I don't see this as, playing 62.
All right, so then I'm a D.
Yeah, and I would go with you on a D, maybe even give him a little bit of a D+ there, because he has played in 62 games. He just ain't doing much. All right, Bilal Coulibaly, the big man out of France, who played with Wembanyama. He was the 7th overall, taken by the Wizards, 63 games, 8.4 points, 4.1 rebounds, 1.7 assists. What do you got, Pete?
That's a tough one.
It's not easy.
Like maybe a C+.
I got him C+. I got him C+. All right, we're moving. All right, another one that I don't want to prejudice this, but Jarace Walker, Pacers, 26 games, 3.8, 1.9, 1.1. He's only played in 26 games. He was the 8th pick overall. I didn't like the pick. I didn't like him as a pick, and it proved out a little bit here What are you going to give it, Pete?
Is that a D for me?
You gave him a D. I gave them an F. Yeah, him and Black. I gave.
I'm being
an
a little
F.
generous.
You are. You're a good grader. That can be good sometimes. I used to give everybody A's when I was really a teacher. Ninth, Taylor Hendricks, 26 games, same as Jerace Walker, 6.2, 4.5, 0.6 in the games that he played. He's been hurt. He's been in and out of the lineup. I gave it a D. It's not good right now.
Yeah, I'm kind of there with you on that one.
Okay, Kason Wallace of the Thunder, 67 games, 20 minutes, 6.8, 2.2, 1.4. I don't really like this pick in the 10 spot. So I wanted to say, but the numbers there aren't terrible, so I wanted to be fair. What do you think, Pete?
That sounds like a C grade to me.
I gave it a C. All right, so I feel pretty good about that. Here's some guys that were not picked in the top 10, and I want to give you just quickly look at what they're doing right now. Derek Lively was taken 12th, the Duke big man, 50 games, 9.1, 6.9, 1.1. He's shooting 75% from the floor, and he's also 1.4 in blocks. That's a pretty good year for a rookie, not bad. Probably might have wanted to look at him a little bit higher. All right, number 2, Keontae George was taken 16. He's averaging 12.8, 2.8, and 4.5 assists. Those are really good numbers.
Yep.
He's another guy that we thought we liked. We should have taken him a little higher. Jamie Jaquez, I thought he was taken a little bit too high. He proved me wrong. 12.5 right now, 4.1, 2.6. He was the 18th pick overall. I think some teams are probably saying that they might have missed on him right now, given those numbers. Brandon Podziemski, I was not a big fan of this pick. Golden State Warriors. That's why I think sometimes it's a little regional, because not everybody on the East Coast is going to stay up late and watch all those West Coast games. People on the West Coast, it's not late for them, so they're checking out those games. And he's having a decent year. 9.5, 5.7, and 3.9. Across the board, those are good. 5.7 for the amount of minutes that he's playing, which is 27 minutes per game. Those are extremely good rebound numbers. All right, Cam Whitmore. He was a guy we thought was, way too high, and then everybody else must have thought it too because he slid down. But he's averaging, only 17 minutes a game, but the numbers that he's putting up aren't bad. 12 points and 3 rebounds. So he's doing all right. He's doing okay. I was a little critical of him, but he's still not a guy that I think I would want, but you never know. All right, let's go to the tournament, Pete. Let's talk to it. What happened? Conference power. Power to the power conferences. Big East, okay? They got a little bit of a snuff, didn't they? And this is what's the new conspiracy rumor out there, and I'm going to throw it out for all of our fans because I know you love conspiracy theories, Pete. I love them too, and so we're going to just throw it out there. Are they trying? Because this is what they did. Because if you have to look at it in any objective way, most people had Connecticut as the number 1 pick overall.
Yep.
In the entire look of the draft there, of all the teams you're going to be looking at, in the entire selection of the committee, there was your number 1 team. Now you're looking at them having by far what most experts estimate as the toughest bracket.
Yeah.
Why did the committee do that? When they won the Big East tournament, went all the way for the first time in a really, really long time. Why did the tournament do that? And this is what people are saying on the conspiracy side, and it's hard to say that this isn't, make you think a little bit. That's why all of, the conspiracy theories, are about 75% true, I would say, that I've seen in my lifetime. Everybody said it was a conspiracy theory that the government might have been involved in shooting a president. And I said, well, that one might have been, we don't know. We'll have to see 50 years later.
It's been a toss-up for 50 years.
It's been a toss-up, and we're starting to think maybe, so it's just one of those things, So you're looking at it, and so the theory is that they're trying to kill the non-football conferences in basketball. What they're trying to do is wear them down. They're trying to get them to either, to any of the conferences that aren't loaded up with football, and you're going to be looking at the A-10, you're going to be looking at the Big East, you're going to be looking at conferences that are prevalently for basketball. We're going to see something going on down there I think people are going to find interesting. So the Big 12 took 8. The Big East got hit with 3. And the Big East also got some bad performance in the NIT, where they had 4 teams go to the NIT, and right now 3 of the 4 are already done. Big 10 got 6, ACC got 4. The Mountain West, which we talked about getting 5, wound up with 6, and the SEC claimed 8. All right, let's run into this NIT fiasco. I got to spend a few minutes on this.
Saw you posted about it.
I did, and I was ranting and raving, I just want to get it out quick. All right, I want to get it out quick because I want to focus on the tournament.
Pull the Band-Aid off?
Which is going exactly, Pete. Let's get it off real quick. All right. First off, the NIT is the sub tournament basically of the NCAA. Teams wait to see if they get chosen for the NCAA. If they've had a good enough year, there's another tournament that takes place, and it's called the NIT, the National Invitational Tournament. Been around for years and years and years. As a young man, I remember attending those games in Madison Square Garden and absolutely loving the atmosphere around those games. It was a special type of tournament because it wasn't the NCAA tournament, but basketball lovers could still get together in New York and really have one of those basketball, arrangements where it was a lot of, usually generally East Coast teams were in there too. And so right now the NCAA has grabbed hold of the NIT. They've nationalized it a little bit more. They've moved it away from Madison Square Garden out to Las Vegas. And right now, what has transpired in the last little bit of time has been an absolute fiasco in my mind. Let me explain to the fans what I'm talking about. All right. You had 17 teams who were selected for this tournament. I'm not going to name any names, but you had 17 teams that were selected by the tournament or could have been selected by the tournament. Because you preemptively took yourself out doesn't mean you weren't that you didn't turn it down. Okay, let's get that clear right off the get-go. Okay, and then you had 17 teams say no. Right now, I think the NCAA should implement a 3 to 5 year moratorium on each one of those teams from attendance into the National Invitation Tournament into the future for 3 to 5 years. Those teams should not be allowed to participate. And secondly, each one of them, I don't know what process you would go through, but somebody needs to go through the process at each one of those universities and colleges and figure out exactly what happened. That you would have 17 teams, I think, embarrass your own universities when you choose not to show up in a play in a tournament that has been a national tournament for years and has been a well-respected tournament. And to be honest, some of the teams that have been aforementioned as somewhere in that zone and that nebulous of we didn't turn it down and we might have turned it down and we turned it down. There's all that kind of nebulous area out there. Turned it down, didn't turn it down. A lot of those teams could have used the exposure. A lot of those teams could have used the help. That will help your enrollment. That'll help your donations. A lot of teams could have used that help. I believe that coaches also have bonuses that are tied into their contracts, and I wonder, are those bonuses payable if the team decides not to go? The team gets punished then, and the coach still gets rewarded. I don't know the setup of that, but I would be interested to see that.
If you don't pay, if you don't play, you don't pay.
I would assume.
Yeah.
I would assume, but some of these coaches' contracts are pretty good too. So it might be, hey, if we qualify and the NIT takes us, but then we turn it down, you still qualified. It'd be interesting to see what happens with some of that. I know that some coaches have that as a contractual balance in there as a bonus, $25,000, $50,000 sometimes. If you make the NIT, make the NCAA, it's a bigger bonus. But right now, the NIT, it really, really needs to get a hold of things, really needs to get a grip on things. You wound up having Xavier in there that had no business being in any postseason tournament. They entered into the postseason tournament with a losing record. Thankfully bounced out by Georgia the other night in the NIT first round, but they had no business being in the tournament to begin with. That possibly was brought on by the fact that you had 17 people say no to you. Okay,
that's crazy.
I think there were other teams available.
I wouldn't even hold on to the. I would say 1 year out of the NCAA tournament and then 3 years out of the NIT.
Ooh, Pete. That's a strict one. That's
come down hard, man.
Well, if you come down hard, then they're going to come back. I assure you.
If the NCAA is taking over that tournament, and that's their secondary tournament, right? Yeah, you consider it, it's beneath us to go play this. But guess what? Now, if you have a great year next year, you can sit out of the NCAA tournament too. That'll be one year, one time only this will happen.
Here's the conversation that needs to be had with some of these places in honesty and to be honest, Pete, you need to have a conversation that says, this is not beneath us to play in this tournament.
Right.
To have a postseason opportunity.
Keep
in
playing.
No way is this beneath us.
Right.
Okay? Now, here's some of the action that's coming out, some of the smoke that comes out from the variant schools. And what's being said also is, and this is the NCAA having a little bit of piece in this, because the NCAA opened up the portal door before the NIT brackets came out. And so some of these young men who are on these teams are now jumping into the portal before their team goes through the NIT. I would give the NCAA a little bit of advice right here off the cuff. Open the portal door after all the postseason tournaments are done, people. Open the portal done after the door opens after the postseason tournaments are done. All right. So don't act like they're not having contact with these people already. And also, when they're saying, well, we had a lot of players that are going into the portal, and then we had some injuries, okay? That's what's being said. That's why we didn't or couldn't go into the NIT.
This all started when they let the football players start sitting out of bowl games.
Right. But that's the logic, right? The logic was, well, we had so many guys that entered the portal, and then we had all of these injuries, okay? And I would question those guys, and one of my good friends brought this up with me. He says, would they have had the same stance if they won 2 more games and went to the NCAA? Would they have had any problems with the portal at that moment if they were actually in the March Madness? That doesn't make it logical, right?
Right.
They would have played. They would have had their whole team there, just like everybody else would have, and then they would have went in the portal. But now somehow, you said it, Pete, the NIT is below us. That's crazy. And that's the first thing that needs to change. And I'm agreeing with you. I think your penalties are on the stringent side, but there need to be stringent penalties for not showing up there. And one of the penalties is we don't take you back. All right. Here's a little bit of what I wanted to talk about before we jump into the brackets is the Power 5 on scholarship. All right. These are teams that I think got into the NCAA tournament, and really they shouldn't be in there. All right, I'm going to say it just straight up, straight out honest. I'm sure they're good people. I'm sure they got great fan bases. They play rigorous schedules, but they have no business being in the NCAA tournament right now. All right, we're going to lay it out. Texas A&M, 20-14, 9-9, no business. You got no business. You finished 7th in your league. 15 home games, 12 away. At least they weren't that egregious. And when I did a cannoli count on them, I put up a cannoli counter. I did not see a high cannoli count on them. So I will give them a little bit of leverage in that direction. But, my friends, 20-14, 9-9. No way. Okay, let's move on to number 2. Don't belong in this tournament dance. Okay, Texas, 20-12, 9-9. Finished 7th in their conference. 7th, people of America. 18 home games, 10 away. Heavy leverage there. We got a +8 on the differential of the home games. That's huge. That's huge. I didn't get an absolute grasp because you don't know. You don't know on every game. But I would say there was a minimum of 8 cannolis devoured here. A minimum of 8 cannolis devoured by the Texas Longhorns. Those Longhorns get hungry. They got to have cupcakes. They got to have cannolis. I'm looking at least 8. I want to say it's 9, but it's in that range. It's in that range. Michigan State is my other team. Absolutely got no business. They got a 7 seed. Tell me you're a Power 5 shill without telling me you're a Power 5 shill, please. You're Michigan State 19-14. They were 10-10 in their league. 18 home, 10 away. I got them down for at least 7+ cannolis. Come on, people of America. Indiana State. They don't have that. They don't have that balance in the indifferentials. Some of the mid-major teams don't have the NIL. Some of the mid-major teams don't have all that guarantee money to buy all those cannolis. You got to be more objective. You got to look at it tighter. My favorite guy in the tournament right now, though, so far, and I'm going out right now, and I'm going to throw this up, Pete, is my guy from Long Beach State, Don Monson. Okay? Don Monson, he is...
You love you some Long Beach State.
Well, he's saying that he is in a Seinfeld episode right now. He's George Costanza when Costanza got fired and he just kept showing back up to work, because that's exactly what happened to Monson. Is they fired him and his team said, no way, we're not letting go yet, and they went all the way through, and now Long Beach State is representative in the big dance, the Le Grand Ball, the dance of the NCAA March Madness, and they're in there. And they're having press conferences with this guy, and he goes, I don't even know why I'm here. I'm not even getting paid. I got fired. And he's hilarious right now. And I love it. I love the story.
This guy's writing his own check somewhere.
And Pete,
Wait
don't
till
know,
he jumps up on the carousel.
I don't know if we get all the way out to Long Beach State. I don't know if we make it all the way out to the West Coast there, but they might want to start watching In the Zone when we tell people in the NCAA, all of you athletic directors, all of you boosters, all of you college presidents, do not, unless it is the most egregious circumstance which brings absolute destruction to your university, do not fire your basketball coach in the middle of the season. Long Beach State is now the poster child in the zone for don't do it. Just don't do it, people. Just don't do it. Stay away. No bueno. All right, let's go, Pete. Let's roll that Super 25 up there. We're going to finish out this year and tell you who exactly wound up. This could be the final, because not everybody else gets to play now, although most of the teams that are on our 25 are still playing. So let's roll through it, Pete, because we're coming up. I told you it's going to be crazy today. Connecticut, 31-3. They're playing. Rocking and rolling, looking good. I do not have them winning the whole title. I'm sorry, Huskies fans. Mea culpa right here. We took Purdue, who's in the number 2 spot, 24-4. Really good season for Coach Painter. Rarefied air for Purdue. What a great season. And, I think everybody's sitting on the sideline just waiting for these guys to get knocked off, waiting for these guys to take another tumble, waiting for the big guy. I think they always like to see the big guy fall in college basketball. I think they'll wait for Zach Edey to fall. It's not going to happen this year, Boilermaker fans. In the Zone is calling it out. We put you down, and we said, go ahead. You're number 1. You're going to win it all this year. You got the eye of the tiger. Oh, my God. Houston, number 3. Number 3, Houston, great season. Kelvin Sampson. Every coach that's aspiring to be a coach should take a look at some of the clips of Coach Sampson's practices. They're unbelievable. He's a great coach, great defensive mind, and he really, really pushes the limit with his team to get them to buy in to exactly what he's talking about with team defense, unselfish play, giving up your body, all of that great stuff that's associated with basketball. Kelvin Sampson got it going on right now. I don't know if they win the national title because, as I've said before, I think they have some problems on the offensive side of the basketball, but they're pretty good, and they're athletic, and they're tough. They're very, very tough. Auburn in the number 4 spot. I thought they got absolutely taken to the woodshed by the NCAA selection committee. I had them down, and not that my word is gospel, but they won the SEC tournament. They have a very good record in comparison to everybody else that you have there. And to not put them as a number 1, I thought, okay, then they're going to go in a solid number 2. To move them to a number 4 seed, that's absolutely egregious. I have no idea what the selection committee was thinking, and they got no business putting this team in a 4 seed. Iowa State, I love this team. Watch out for the Cyclones. I have them as a Final Four team. They're very good on both sides of the basketball. They play great defense, and they took Houston. When I saw them take it, that's when I said I'm going to pick them for the Final Four. When I saw them take Houston to the woodshed in the conference tournament championship, they absolutely played great basketball. They got a really cool young coach, TJ Otzenberger, and they got a lot going on over there. North Carolina in the 6th spot. They're going to have a good year. I got them in the Final Four. They're going to have a great year again. Solid in the tournament, hopefully. But they got a couple of bumps in that road that they could get hit up with. Arizona, 7. Tennessee, 8. Those are 2 solid ones that could certainly wind up in the Final Four. No question about it. They just extended the coach at Arizona. They had a great signing also this week. And Tennessee, that coach just keeps rolling because they play good D and they play hard on both sides of the basketball. You're going to find teams, and now everybody talks about efficiencies and this plus and minus and all this other stuff. When you really come down to it and you want simple basketball understanding of how you're going to find a really good team for your bracket, find a team that plays really hard on both sides of the basketball. That's what they're talking about in all of this stuff where it gets confusing with all the numbers and all the algorithms and all the other stuff and all this crazy stuff that you just sit there and say, who plays the hardest on both sides of the basketball? And I think Tennessee is one of those teams that does that. Duke, Illinois, South Carolina. I moved South Carolina down. Everybody's down on South Carolina. I don't know why, but they're 26-7, rolling out of the SEC, people. This is the SEC. It's a dogfight every single night in the SEC. Look at some of the teams that are in the NCAA tournament that they had to play and beat because they got a good record. I like St. Mary's and Gonzaga, bang, bang, right there in the 12-13. They both come out of the same conference. They're both very good. Both could wind up deep in this tournament. I don't see them getting deep, deep, deep. I don't see Gonzaga never gets too deep, I don't think. You know, they kind of get bumped every once in a while. Every once in a while they have a great team and get real down there. But St. Mary's, they got a shot maybe, you know, because they can really spread the floor and shoot the ball, and they got some good size. And so you never know. You never know. Creighton, Marquette, right there, two Big East teams in a row. The Big East got snuffed, man. The Big East got absolutely snuffed in this tournament. And I'm not talking about, you know, did Providence belong in? Did Seton Hall belong in? Did St. John's belong in? I don't know that, you know, you can make a case for each one of them, but when you're looking at it through the whole thing, I kind of believe a little bit in that conspiracy theory with them trying to really take those non-football conferences to the woodshed, making the Big East one of them kind of an example as well, and saying, you know, you don't have to have all three of those teams, but it's a little surprising to me that in a power conference like that, with the schedule that they play, that all three of those teams were bounced out. I would say that's a little surprising to me. Kudos to Seton Hall for taking the bid into the NIT. They had a good win the other night. Kudos to them. Florida Atlantic, Utah State. We like this team. We like this team. They're going to shoot. They're going to spread the floor. Florida Atlantic, watch out. They've been kind of laying in the bushes. They might come out and surprise everybody. Kentucky is so mercurial. They're young. They're freshmen of Dillingham. They got Shepard. They're a really, really good team. But then they added, you know, the young Big Z. And Pete's got some of the game up right there now.
Michigan, Mississippi.
Who is it?
Michigan State, Mississippi State. First game of the 64.
Can you see the score at all?
Yeah, it looks like Michigan 20, Mississippi 15.
Okay. So I didn't like Michigan State here, but you got to give Coach Izzo his due. And right now they're going to be in a tough fight. That's going to be a really, really good game today. That's a really good, at least from the television people, they got it right because that's a great way to start off the day. All right, so we're going to keep rolling with New Mexico and Drake. Like both of these teams, Richard Pitino Jr. and his team are in the NCAA, and Dad had to stay home, so he can maybe bring in Dad as a special consultant right now to ride along for his NCAA team and make a run of it.
Somebody up in the booth.
Drake and Washington State, you know, boom, boom, you know, right off the get. These are two really good teams, and I think they're matched up for some reason. I think these two teams are playing each other. I'm not sure. I want to look at that. And then Colorado State, boy, what they did to Virginia the other night, they backed up our ranking on them, and they're a really good team. They got caught into a playoff game with Virginia and absolutely spanked Virginia. And I did want to mention at this time, with our selections, at least in the play-in games, there were 4 play-in games. We were 3-1, Pete. We were 3-1.
Nice.
Last night we died in overtime when Montana State went down to Grambling. That Grambling team's a great story and played a tough game. They were down by a good bit, fought all the way back, and came back and won the game. So we were 3-1 there anyway, Pete. So Kansas, I'm going to fill out here, and we're going to keep McNeese State in there. Keep McNeese State in there. Okay, so the NABC came out with, that's the National Association of Basketball Coaches, if you believe that there is such a thing. And they come out and they have, it's a union for basketball coaches, if you will.
Okay.
And they come out every year and they have some awards. And so we're going to share them with you right now with the first team, second, and third team that they came out with this year of their All-American candidates. So they have different All-American lists. Some people put them out. The NABC will put one out. The AP might put one out. Anybody can put one out. We might put one out. Anybody can put one out. You can call anybody an All-American. But, these lists are certainly organizationally done and credible. So they lead off with R.J. Davis, obviously. I don't see any problem with that. Zach Edey, Dalton Knecht from Tennessee, Tristan Newton from Connecticut. Tristan Newton from Connecticut. I was a little surprised by that. And Jamal Sheed from Houston, who is certainly Junkyard Dog Award winner of all basketball this year. So that's not a bad list. I thought Tristan Newton from Connecticut, I guess they wanted to represent Connecticut for the great year that they had, but I was a little surprised that they went with him. Okay, second, Filipowski from Duke, Kyle Filipowski, great season, the leader of that Duke team right now. If they're going to get deep into the tournament, they're really going to have to identify something out there that is that battering ram that they can use every single night and knock teams out. I would say to the coaching staff down at Duke, Coach Shire and some of the coaches down there, Kyle Filipowski is your battering ram. Up his touches, up the amount of times he gets the ball in the post. Let him go at the opposing opponent down in the block a lot more than you do. Okay, they got Deron Holmes here on the second team. I like that. Young man from Dayton. He really led Dayton for not just 1 year this year, but he's had an amazing career there. And we had him as one of our first-round draft picks last year. And he didn't go out, but I think this year, he's certainly going to make the first round. I like this next pick, Tyler Kolek, second team out of Marquette. I think he possibly could have been first team. He had a great year. Hurt, injured at the end, and it really, really took its toll on his team. So you can tell how great a player he is when he's not around. It really does take its toll. They have Jaden Ledee from San Diego State, having a great year. A name you won't hear, but you might hear it in the tournament if he gets going. Here's another good name. This is another one. Not many players transfer out of North Carolina, but Caleb Love did. Transferred out of North Carolina. He went to Arizona, and he got second team out there. He's having a very good year out there, having a very, very solid year. Okay, so we got Johnny Broome from Auburn is on the third team. They got the big man Dickinson from Kansas is on the third team as well. They have McCullough, and this is big, folks. This is something you want to – I don't know how many people don't have a bracket that's in right now. You probably got to have it in because the game just flipped.
Yep.
But McCullough for Kansas is going to be out for the entire tournament. So that's going to really, really impact them going into this tournament. They're one of their best players, certainly maybe I think their best player, and he's going to miss the entire tournament. That was announced by Coach Self himself. Himself. Baylor Shearman from Creighton. I really, really was surprised at this because they have such a balanced team, and I thought maybe Trey Alexander, but I was excited by that. And then you have Mark Jones from Alabama. I'm going to tell you about Mark Jones. He's pretty good, man. All right, so here's some people I think they missed, all right, on this NABC list. They don't have Terrence Shannon here from Illinois. I know he had a little bit of a mess up and a dust up in the middle of the year, but again, nothing's been decided about that. I think you got to really look into that and see, let it play out and judge him on his merits right now. And I think if you do judge him on his merits, he probably belongs on one of those teams. The Shepard-Dillingham connection, the two freshmen, the two very, very solid freshmen, both being talked about on mock draft boards very high. They're having Dillingham rise right now as maybe the number one pick overall. Don't see it myself personally, but neither one of them made first, second, or third team, so I don't know how you could be the number one pick if you haven't done some of that stuff. But I thought, possibly they could have been on there. Tucker DeVries from Drake. You're going to hear this name today. Tucker DeVries from Drake. Should have been on there. That kid put up some numbers on both ends of the basketball. He scores the ball, rebounds the ball. I think he should have been considered. David Jones from Memphis. He was at St. John's, transferred out to Memphis, had a great year out there. He's going to be on our draft board as well, too. David Jones, they might have wanted to give him a look. Dylan Jones from Weber State just declared himself for the draft. Another guy who was player of the year in his conference and a really, really good player. And then maybe I'll give it to the PC fans up in the Friar fans up there. Maybe, possibly Devin Carter. Didn't play the other night, and that kind of hurt them. But He could be a consideration as well. I think he's going to be a first-round draft pick if the Providence Friars want to know. I think it's going to be at the very late end of the draft pick, but I think he's going to be able to get into there and get into be a first-round draft pick. All right, Pete, we're going to close now with what's going on today. Today is the day of all days. Today is where we're going to take it to the rim. Today is the day we're going to cut off that baseline and take a charge. Today is the day we're going to dive on the floor for that loose ball. Today is the day we're going to take a 30-second timeout. We're going to take a full timeout. We're going to try and stop the run. But at the end of the day, Pete, everybody I'm listing on this list that I'm going to go through right now, somebody's moving on and somebody's going home. It's the most brutal of times in sports. There will be complete and utter and total joy on one side of the ball. And there will be complete and utter and total devastation on the other side.
Yeah.
Careers will end. Seniors will have played their last game. Thankfully, it will be in an NCAA tournament. We were lucky to do that at Colgate. But careers will end today. And so there's a lot in there. And so that's what makes this thing great. It's the basketball we love, but it's also that emotional attachment that we have to it. And what I'm saying right now, and I've said this on the show, Pete and I have talked about this a lot, with the NIL, this is something you hear a lot about lately. Diversity, equity, and inclusion. It's talked about a lot on college campuses right now. And if you wanted to apply that matrix to the NCAA and how they're doing, and especially with their field, I think you could really apply that and say, wow, diversity-wise, there's not a diverse amount of teams here. There's a lot of Power 5 shills right up here. There are a lot of teams I didn't think that belong in here that are in here. And there's a lot of teams that got invited to the NIT that I thought maybe they should have picked some other people that might have been more excited and more deserving. But that's where we are right now in the game. But when we go through that, when you look at equity, okay, with the NIL, with the portal, with teams now absolutely, completely out of players. You have teams with 2 on their roster, with 3 on their roster, now going to have to go to the portal and completely reload their rosters to pull it up. And now they got a little bit of NIL money so they can pay somebody to come over and play with them as opposed to having somebody come over there for the right reason. And so when you say we have equity, I would say right now, in the way that they've done this, with the amount of differential in home and away games, with allowing people to buy games, with allowing people to buy players right now, the game of college basketball has never, ever in its entire history been more inequitable. I'm going to say it right now on In the Zone, folks. This is the low of the low. This is the nadir of college basketball. This is the low of the low. It has never, ever been this inequitable. And now let's go to the inclusion part. The inclusion part, they should want to include some of those teams like High Point that had a great season. That's what makes this fun. You're going to see some of these big teams that played all of those soft schedules, ate all of those cannolis. They're going to go out in the first round. Everybody's going to shake their head and say, why did they go out in the first round? Because they played 19 games at home. And now they're in a neutral site, and they're in a tough game. That's why. And so it's tough to swallow some of this stuff right now because they've absolutely dissolved what this whole thing was about. Somebody better grab hold of it, but I'm going to go through it right now with you, Pete. Michigan State, Mississippi State. We talked about all these games on our Sunday show, but these are the games that are on today. Michigan State and Mississippi State is the game that's on right now. Pete was talking, I think it was 2015. Pete will throw it back up there for us right now. You got legendary coach Tom Izzo. You got Coach Chris Jans, who's from Mississippi State.
You got Duquesne, BYU left, and you got Michigan State, Mississippi, 27-18 on the right.
So we called Duquesne in this game.
Yep.
Over BYU.
They're up 9-0.
They're up 9-0. Wow. And we called the other side of that with Mississippi State, and they're losing right now. So everybody's bracket's going to get a little bit of a bump and grind today. But now you have Duquesne and BYU. The game is on. And I got about 8-9 minutes here to close, and I'm going to get out of here.
I'll show you where to go on the
bury
NCAA
myself
website.
in front of the I'm going to bury myself in front of my television.
You could do it on your computer and watch them all.
Oh, I'll have everything out. I'll have the phone.
Multi-games.
I'll have the computer. I'll have the chips. I'll have the dip. I'll have everything, Pete. Believe me, it's all set up. This is holy days of obligation in my house. Akron and Creighton, kind of a weird game. Kind of a weird game. You're kind of expecting Creighton to slide through there, but Akron, the Zips, you never know. Long Beach State and Arizona. Now, you want to talk about loose, Pete? Do you think Long Beach State is loose? They're going up against one of the best teams in the country. They fired their coach. They went all the way through the tournament. Now they're getting to play in the NCAA tournament. This might be the loosest team ever to play in the NCAA tournament.
Yeah, right.
Thanks to the administration at Long Beach State. You just sent in the loosey-goosey team. Arizona better take care of business today. Wagner got the bump, and they get to play the Tar Heels at North Carolina. They had a good first-round win. Howard had a couple of looks at the basket there. My good friend Rod Balanis is an assistant at Howard. They had a couple of really, really good looks at the basket, and the ball just didn't go down for them. Wagner survived with only 7 players, everybody. That's what I would like to say to everybody right now. Wagner Seahawks, only 7 players. You can do it. Get them on the bus. It's the NIT. You got 7 players. Get them ready. I'd love 7 players because that means I'm going to play a lot of minutes. I'm going to get a lot of time. That's all I would care about in that bus. These guys drive me nuts sometimes, Pete. Morehead State and Illinois. Nobody knows anything about Morehead State, so they're probably pretty good. Illinois, Terrence Shannon, I see them moving and bumping and grinding all the way up through this tournament. I think that's one of the teams also that's in UConn's bracket. I think that's going to be a tough bracket. This is to me the most even. There's 2 really even games today. This one, Oregon, South Carolina. I picked Oregon to beat South Carolina today in the bracket. I think they have a really good team that, out in the West Coast, people don't know a whole lot about it, but they're really talented, very, very well coached. And I think South Carolina has had a great year, and I've been on them all year, but they've been sinking a little bit lately, and this could be a knock-knock game for them. Nevada-Dayton, that's going to be another good game. That's 2 really good teams. That's Stevie Alford matched up against Anthony Grant. 2 coaches, been around the block a little bit, had been at the big time, right? They were both big-time coaches. Anthony Grant had been out at Alabama, and they're both at the big time, and now they're going to lock horns, and they're going to have a little matchup there today. I think that's a good game, okay? You have Drake and Washington State. This is 2 teams. If you thought 2 teams got beat by the seed in the NCAA, these 2 teams got beat because they're both very, very good teams. They both have very, very good resumes. And for them playing each other in the first round, I just don't see it. I just don't see it. A lot of people talking about this Samford team, Pete, and they're playing Kansas today. A lot of people talking about them. And if you have Kansas without McCullough, you might get a little smoke on that. You might get a little smoke there. NC State and Texas State. NC State winners of 5 straight ACC games, blasting all the way through the ACC tournament with magnificent fashion. And now they jump in and they got a tough matchup with this Texas Tech team. Certainly you're going to get a tough seed when you weren't the team that was supposed to come out of your conference. But man, oh man, that's a tough matchup. Texas Tech's very, very good. St. Peter's, they're in there again. Tennessee. Rick Barnes, he's not going to sleep. He's not going to take it easy. He's going to come out and want to punch this team out right away. I'm going to be watching games all night tonight, Pete. This is going to be unbelievable. And I don't know who's going to get punched out first, but if you know anything about the NCAA tournament, somebody's getting knocked today. Somebody's going out today. Somebody's bracket, probably mine's going up in flames. All right. South Dakota and Iowa State. This is no sleeper game for Iowa State. Everybody in this tournament is capable. Now, there are some mismatches, certainly, and this is one of them, but everybody in this tournament is capable. And you get a team like South Dakota, you say, Rich, what are they doing? Well, it's about 27 below outside. So they're in the gym shooting all the time. They're in the gym playing all the time because there's 67 feet of snow outside. They're in the gym, man. Be careful with that game. Be careful with that game. McNeese and Gonzaga, another game I want to alert people to. Be careful.
They're going to be a sleeper.
Be careful. Could be. McNeese. And keep an eye on Will Wade, the coach there. He's being mentioned for a lot of different jobs. He was formerly at LSU, one of the coaches that took the FBI wiretap bump and got knocked out, went over to McNeese State, has turned that program around with 30 wins. 30 wins. And they're, good luck, Gonzaga. Oakland and Kentucky, I want to put you on this one too because this coach at Oakland's been there a really long time. And if you're going to see a team that's going to play pretty loose, but they're pretty good today, I think you might see that Oakland team. Kentucky is so mercurial. They take a lot of what I would consider to be not high selectable shots. They don't take the best selection of shots. And that can hurt you in a one-game setup. That can hurt you if the other team gets hot. So I'd watch that game as well. Colorado State and Texas, I didn't have Texas in. And if you saw what Colorado State did to Virginia the other night, you're going to know what they're going to do to Texas today. They're going to take Texas by the horns, and they're going to take them out of the NCAA tournament. You're going to see some of this action here also. Is going to create some situations on our carousel as well, where we're going to have coaches moving and grooving. Some of these people right now can't announce that they're moving because they're still playing. And so just close. How many minutes do I got, Pete?
I think you got about 4.5.
4.5. So give me an update on what you see up on the games there.
All right. So I have, let's see. I'm switching over my monitor here.
Michigan State.
Just popping over here. The Michigan State is 29-24 over Mississippi State.
Oh, tightening up.
The Duquesne game just went to a break, so I don't know what their score is.
Duquesne was up. Duquesne with Keith Dambrau. He announced his
17-10.
retirement.
They're up over BYU.
Yeah, BYU is good. They're going to recalibrate in that game, but I think that could be that's a game where you might see an upset. I called that upset in my bracket, and the reason I did that is because there's some things great about the emotion of this tournament.
Michigan State just going to the half, 31-24.
31-24 at half. They're playing good defense then. 24 points for that Mississippi State team's pretty good lockdown. Mississippi State has athletes, so I'm assuming Michigan State's doing a pretty good job of containment there. Michigan State's doing a pretty good job of keeping them out of transition and out of the paint. And so now you're going to see a situation also here where, on the coaching carousel, you had Ohio State go ahead and give Diebler the job. He had it as an interim. This is what happens sometimes also because now they got a little bit pushed into this as well because they went and fired their coach, Chris Holtmann, in the middle of the season. There was about 8 games left. Diebler took the team, and there was a noticed marked improvement in the team, 100%. Now they went 6-2 at the end, gave this gentleman a chance as an interim to prove himself, and went and said there was enough support now for everybody to say, okay, let's leave him in the job. When you had, some significant candidates that you could have gotten for that job. And so they got locked in with Diebler a little bit. Now they're in the NIT. They get bounced out of the first round of the NIT. They may be, wanting to reconsider that. But, hey, kudos to them. They got it locked up. You're going to see some of these other jobs. Some of these other jobs are going to go, as well. Michigan probably is a situation where they're waiting. They're probably waiting for a coach that's in this tournament right now.
Yep.
Maybe not, though. Maybe not. I think, UCLA is the coach there might be looking at Michigan. You have some other parts moving around that as well. But they may not be waiting. You may hear something about that. But those are the bigger jobs and the domino jobs. And, St. Louis is open because they took Travis Ford out. I think you're going to see the gentleman from Indiana State who had a really good year at Indiana State. They just got knocked out of the NIT, I think, or they're still playing in the NIT. But I think he's going to take that job at St. Louis. So you're going to see some moving and grooving. You're going to see some moving around the chairs. You have a couple of teams in the MAC right now open. You have Loyola in the Patriot League that's open. You have the MAC has Canisius. The MAC now has Siena also that are open as well. Good luck to all of those teams in finding their next coach. And when we're in the zone here, Pete, we're going to give you all of the news every time it comes up, every chance we can give it to you. Now, folks, One last thing on this NIT and the NCAA whole thing. This is just out of pulling it out of my hat, okay? There's too much basketball right now. That's coming from me.
Okay.
That's coming from me because I want to absorb it all and I want to take it all in. But right now I can't do that because as we just read out, you have 30 plus teams playing today, 30 plus tomorrow, and you have the NIT going on at the same time. The NIT
didn't the
was
NIT
going
used to
on at the same time as the play-in games.
Didn't that used to start like a week later?
It has to now, I think, almost like a bowl game, start either. They can't do it before, most likely, but they need to start after the NCAA tournament then. Put them up on a bowls game situation. Let them wait 30 days or however long it takes to get through this tournament.
Or even on off nights. Like you got the first two rounds of 32 tonight, right?
Yeah.
Let them play tomorrow and the next day and then do the Sweet 16
Well,
or the round of 32.
100%. You know,
Alternate.
Do something, but also I would say take the NIT out of it as well. And the reason that I'm saying that is because it kind of goes into this other piece that I'm talking about. When you take the NIT out and then now you divide this day up much better than it is right now. All of these games right now, it's just too many. The television, you got 42 split screens. They got all of this stuff going on. You could have broke this up and said, okay, you guys are going out on Wednesday, half of you. You're going out on Thursday. Then our other side of the bracket, you half are going out on Friday and then Saturday, and stretch it out that way. So you don't have all of these games on one day. So it's impossible, really, to watch and keep up with all of the games. You can keep up with your bracket, but it's impossible to keep up with all the games for me because I really like to absorb it and watch all the games.
That's part of the shell game.
That's it. I just want them to move the NIT later because it'll give us more good college basketball right after it and allow the NIT to shine a little bit and have its own time. That's what I think might help both sides of the equation there. We're in the zone, Pete. We're going to catch you later, next week for sure, and we'll get back to you, and we'll keep you posted on this tournament. But this is it, folks. It's on. It's March Madness. Let's go.